Alright, so hi there everyone, welcome back to the observatory. So the next part of the power project is look like it's going to start making some progress again. I eventually found another supplier for another DC to DC converter, which I'm going to use for powering the external rigs. So that's en route and should be here in the next couple of days. So over the last couple of days I've been running more cabling out to the outside of the observatory in readiness for that arriving. So as you can see here, I've got all the cables coming up underneath the observatory and cabled into the fuse boards, and then all the cables going out along the back of this panel to the Sonoff wireless relays. So as you can see at the front, we've got them all wired up now, and they're all working fine, and can control them same as I can on the other two units over Google or through the various apps on the phones or through the Home Assistant server. So that's all looking good. So we'll pop under the dome and see what other changes we've made under there. Alright, so here we are under the observatory, down at the solar batteries, and one of the jobs that I said I was going to do was to replace the old fuses. So this is what was in place originally, just this crappy little fuse links, and I didn't like them, they didn't seem very robust, so I've changed them out for standard automotive blade fuses. So that was all wired in. So this is for the battery balancer. So if there's a slight mismatch in the charging of the batteries, it will dump power back and forth the batteries. And then all the wiring, we can see it coming down through from the power bay in the observatory and routing off along the joists and around to the external perimeter of the observatory, which leads us on to the next bit. If I just duck under this beam. So here we can see I've run the cables. So there's two of these junction boxes that I've put in. I've got 4 channels, or one channel for each of the devices coming in off the Sonoff wireless relays. So I've got 4 DC jacks that I've just put in to the junction box using the standard jacks that we use on the Astro equipment. The intention being that, you know, I can have one for a hub or a mini PC, another for the mount, another for the camera, and then another one for potentially the dew heating controls. So I've got one here which will be for the rig that we can see just here, and then I've got another one just the other side over there where the next rig is going to be set up just over there. So that's what we're going to look at today. Alright, so here we are outside again. So this is the current CGX mount that I use for both the Edge11, my deep space setup, and also for the solar scope. So the solar scope's currently mounted on there from when I was imaging the sun the other day. So the intent is I'm going to move this solar scope and the CGX and replace it with a CGX-L, which will become dedicated for the Edge11 setup. The little bit extra capacity of the CGX should help with the Edge11. So on the right here we can see I've got another tripod. So this was actually the original tripod from the CGX-L that's now mounted on a pier inside the observatory. So what I did is I got myself another CGX-L head which I'll put onto this tripod, and then I'll swap these positions so that the CGX-L will sit here and the CGX will sit where the XL tripod is currently sitting. Now the cabling, so at the moment I've just got this bundle of cables that I shoved through underneath the floor of the bay of the observatory, and I'll make up new cable lengths that I can plug into these new junction boxes that I've installed underneath the observatory, so that I can easily remove the cables and take away the scopes and take away anything that I need to do. And also that gives me the flexibility of making cable lengths up for whatever I need, because it's both jacked at both ends, so no problems there. And then what I've also got is for the mount cables. As we know, they come with a cigarette lighter socket, so I've bought a couple of plug-in sockets that I can cut the cable, put these on place, and then if I do decide to go out somewhere, a dark site somewhere, taking the CGX or the other CGX-L with me, then I can always just plug back in the cigarette lighter socket, or however end up deciding to power the units. So that is the plan. So the first thing today is I'm going to get the CGX-L rig moved and the CGX-L tripod put in its place. Okay, so that is ready to move, I think. God, that was a ton. Alright, so the bubble level is level now. Just need to tighten up the legs, but I'll wait until I've put the CGX head on top, because it'll obviously add a bit of weight, and I expect that while the mount's settling, it will probably sink a little bit into the soil. But the next thing I'll do is I'm just going to check to see the front tripod leg is pointing to the celestial pole, and to do that I'm going to use the GPS compass on true north, mount around about 5 degrees. Alright, so that's pretty close, that's good enough. So it's time to go and get the CGX-L head. So just for a bit of added security, if you remember, I had the 3 steel rods punched into the ground that I used the cargo straps then just to secure the tripod and hold it in place. And for the CGX-L, I was in the DIY shop the other day, and I did find this steel corkscrew dog tether, so I'm going to hopefully screw that into the ground. Depending how hard it is, I might have to pop a hole in the ground first just to get a bite, and then I can tether the mount onto that. So I'm going to work out where I'm going to put it first. Forward a bit. Alright, we'll check the north on it. Round a fraction. Alright, that's not bad. That'll do as an initial pointing. So the level on this one is a little bit low at the front. God, they're tight, they've been on that long. Can't release that. I'm going to have to get some tooling to undo the leveling. Solid. be outside for that long. I'll get some WD-40. A bit WD-40 on the old clamps that haven't been moved for donkeys. Freed them off. Now I'm going to try and put this spike in the ground. Alright, so I'll use that as an anchor. Alright, so that's both the mounts roughly pointing at the celestial pole, and I've put the tethers back on, so I had some spare cargo straps that I use on the quad bike, so I'll have to get some more for when I'm out shopping. But I've got that tethered down to the dog anchor, and I've got the other one tethered down onto the bolts, and everything is pretty tight. So the next thing I need to do is go and get cables made up. So for the cabling, I've got this same cable that I was using to running the power underneath the dome, so it's just 2-core red and black 1.5, and I'll make up cables to suit. And for the mount cables, I'll use the existing Celestron supplied cable. Obviously it's got the screw jack on it, so I don't have any of these that I can make up my own cables. I did try to look for them on Amazon, but they were out of stock somewhere. But I can just, as I say, I have those plugs that I can splice into the cable, so I can make this any size I want effectively. So what I'm going to do is I'll run the cables down this leg, across to the dome, up the leg of the decking, and into the junction boxes that I showed you earlier. I'm going to do the same on the other mount for the other junction box. And then obviously once I get the cables up to this height, then I just need to work out what the rotation lengths are for the telescopes. Now obviously this one's a lot easier, it's a lot smaller, so the cables for the camera, if I'm using the night scope, I've got the 533 on the nights setup, you know, so we don't have a big radius there to worry about, so that's relatively easy. And then for the other scope, obviously when I've got the Edge11 on there, it comes out quite a bit. So again, I just need to factor in the lengths with a view to having a nice sweeping arc back to a secure point on the mount, down the tripod legs, and up onto the decking junction boxes. I need to find another USB cable for going into the mount on there. I think I've got one in a drawer somewhere. And I've got another hub, a little one of these 4-way splitter hubs, should I need it for the new CGX-L. So I'm going to go and get on with doing some cabling now, and we'll join you later. Alright, so welcome back to the next day, folks. So last night you left me away to make up cables for doing the power feeds from the junction boxes underneath the dome across to the rigs. So I managed to get the 2 cables set up for each of the camera power feeds, and I also modified the existing Celestron supplied power cable for the mounts, so they've all got the new connectors and everything, and they're all tied in to the junction boxes with the plug-in sockets, which is working great. So I've temporarily spiral wrapped the cables that run along the ground. Managed to find spacing in the deck gaps to feed the USB plugs through, so that's good. So they're temporarily hung underneath the decking until I get them pinned in once I'm satisfied where everything's running. And then spiral wrap the cables across the floor, the ground there, just to stop me tripping over them too much in the dark. And then the cables that are currently going up to the cameras and the focusers, they're currently lying loose, but I do have some of that braided wrap that I can pull the cables through, which I'll do once I've finished sorting out all the cables. As you see, I've got a bit of a tidying up still to do, but the main thing is everything's working great. So I have the Edge 11 set up now on the CGX. I got the polar alignment done on that last night and got the focusing sorted out on there, so that appears to be working not too bad. I did a aberration inspector on it last night, so my back focus isn't quite right, so I'll need to take a look at that. But at least the mounts tracking and imaging, so that's the new CGX-L set up there. And then here in front of me I've got the original CGX currently with the solar mount, the solar telescope on it, and it's actually tracking the sun at the moment. So I haven't yet done a polar alignment on this. I just did a drift align with the sun, so it's doing not too bad at the moment, but it's still a little bit of room for improvement. So I'll maybe tonight, if I can be bothered, go and do a proper polar alignment on it. So things are looking good, and everything's working as I say. I've still got the dew heaters still to do, so I haven't decided yet how to modify the cables on them, whether to remove the existing manufacturer's cables and put in my own cables and plugs and sockets, but I haven't got around to looking at that yet. So that's everything at least working on the outside, which is great. I did have one issue with this rig because I'm using a third laptop. It was originally a laptop I was using for streaming. There doesn't appear to be enough power on the USB ports to drive both the focuser and the camera, so I kept dropping out the connection, but I did find another powered USB hub that I've put in behind the laptop, as we'll see in a minute, and that's brought everything back to life again, so everything is looking good there. So let's head inside to the observatory and see the changes there. Alright, so here we are inside. So this is now the third rig, the solar rig. As we can see, I've got the sun on there at the moment, and it appears to be not too bad. So there's a couple of large sunspots up towards the top of the sun, as we can see, and yeah, so I'm quite pleased with how that's gone. And today I also tried my new 4X Telemate or PowerView Telemate, whatever they are, on the solar scope, and that came in no problem as well, but that's a topic for another video. So this is now the solar rig. So this is external rig number 3, and this one is the Edge 11 setup. And again, I've got the new laptop. Oh, that's an old laptop, but I've got it set up now with all the astronomy software that we use for the imaging, and the CPWI for the Celestron mount, etc. Sharp caps running on there, ASI Studios on, and OBS Studios in there as well. So everything appears to be okay so far. So this rig was the original rig that I was using for both for the CGX when I was doing the solar and the nighttime imaging with the Edge 11. So this is now dedicated to the Edge 11. I have set up a new profile in Nina for the CGX over on there, and that's all working good. And then this is the original the laptop, which is for the inside telescope, so the RASA 11. So that's all three rigs effectively operational now, which is absolutely brilliant. Rust desk is set up on the new laptop as well, so I've got remote desktop access from inside on all three telescopes, and yeah, I'm quite happy with how it's all turned out. So nice little desk space, laptops all fit in nicely, and just a few bits and bobs still to tidy up in here. All the old cabling that I've still got to remove that's surplus to the requirements. So that was all the mains powered adapters and things that are no longer required, seeing as everything is coming off the 12 volt distribution on the solar system. And as I say, yeah, got the Sonoffs, they're all working, to set them up on the Home Assistant last night, so they're all looking good and working fine. And other than the dew heater controller, or the dew heater control units, I think that's about it for the time being. So I don't think there's really anything else to cover. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Just the usual, cables everywhere, and still some tidying up to do, but on the whole, a positive outcome. So on that note, we'll catch you later. I'll head back outside and you can have a squint around.